Evening, Chair, we're now live on YouTube.
All right, brilliant, thank you. Okay, welcome to this virtual meeting that is being conducted with members and officers at various locations, communicating via audio, video and online. There is also an opportunity for the public to listen and view the proceedings. One of the things I just wanted to make sure is ensure that your telephones or your phones are actually on mute or off, please. But before the meeting starts, I'd like to invite the committee member and scrutiny manager, Hilary, to explain how proceedings are going to work and confirm that members and officers are in attendance.
Thank you, Chair. So first of all, we'll do the roll call. So when I call your name, can you please indicate your attendance to, so that we can confirm that you can hear and be heard. I'm just going to call surnames. Councillor Albert?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Aspinwall?
Yes.
Billing? Claire?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Bryant?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Collins?
Hello.
Davidson?
Yeah.
Davies?
Yeah.
Dennis Harburg?
Yes.
Derbyshire?
Present.
Green? Councillor Green?
Yes.
Thank you. Grindle?
Here.
Harwood?
Yes.
Hone?
Here.
Sorry, Councillor Hone, I didn't hear you.
I'll say here again.
Thank you. Hoskins?
Yeah, here.
Hewson?
I am.
Hunter?
Present.
Jarvis? Councillor Jarvis?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Levitt?
Yeah.
Mantle?
Yes, I'm here.
McNally?
Yeah.
Moody?
Here.
Muir?
Present.
Nash?
Yeah.
Nguala?
Here.
North?
Here.
Oliver?
Here.
Prendergast?
Here.
Rice?
Here.
Ruggiero Chaka?
Present.
Stania?
Here.
Diaz Hanscom?
Yes, I'm here.
Strong?
Present.
Sorry, she's given her apologies. Fake?
Here.
Tyler?
Here.
Tyson?
Yes.
Weeks?
Present.
Are there any councillors that I have not called? No, I don't think so. Officers, Ian Fullstone,
Present.
Jeanette Thompson,
Present.
Ian Cooper,
Present.
Vaughan Watson,
Present.
Ruben Ivu,
Present.
Melanie Stimpson,
Present.
Naraina Takatavu,
Present.
William Edwards,
Present.
and we have three long service awards who are Amy Jarmain,
Hello.
Louis Symes,
Present.
and Ros Allwood.
Present.
Have I missed anybody? No, in that case, thank you very much. The meeting is being live streamed live on the council's YouTube channel and also recorded via Zoom. If live streaming fails, the meeting will be adjourned. If the live stream cannot be restored within a reasonable period, then the remaining business will be considered at a time and date fixed by the chair. If the chair does not fix a date, the remaining business will be considered at the next ordinary meeting. Please stay in view of the camera at all times. If for any reason the meeting is not quorate, an officer will notify attendees by interjecting the meeting. The meeting will adjourn immediately. Once the meeting is quorate, the meeting will resume. If connection cannot be restored within a reasonable period, then the remaining business will be considered at a time and date fixed by the chair. If the chair does not fix a date, the remaining business will be considered at the next ordinary meeting. Only members present for the entire debate and consideration of an item are entitled to vote. If a remote member loses connection, the chair may adjourn the meeting for a short period to enable connection to be re-established. If the chair does not adjourn the meeting, the member will be deemed to have left the meeting at the point of failure and be deemed to have returned at the point of re-establishment. Please ensure that your mobile phone is muted and other noisy devices are also muted. Please activate the mute button on your tablet or computer when you are not speaking, and please be mindful that others can see you. If a member wishes to speak, they should use the raise hand button. If a member has a closure motion, personal explanation or point of order, please interject the meeting and wait for the chair to invite you to speak. When satisfied that there has been sufficient debate, the chair will request that the committee member and scrutiny manager read out the recommendation that the members will be voting on. When requested to vote, voting will be via the green tick for yes, red cross for no, and blue raise hand abstain functions. Excuse me. There are part 2 papers for this evening's meeting. When council has resolved to move into part 2, the host will ask members and relevant officers to join a breakout room, which you will need to accept. You will automatically be transferred to the breakout room, which is where the part 2 discussions will be held. Please note there will be a short delay whilst this is administered. Once the part 2 discussions have concluded, members will need to move back into the public part of the meeting. Whilst the part 2 discussions are happening, the live stream of the meeting will not have ceased. It will have continued live on YouTube with a holding message. To leave the breakout room, please select the blue leave breakout room option. And this will bring up another screen which offers 2 options. Please do not select leave meeting. The system that will then automatically redirect you to the public part of the meeting, and you will automatically be muted. Are there any questions? No, in that case, I'll hand over to the chair of the council, Councillor Terry Tyler. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. Apologies for absence. I've received apologies for absence from Councillor Barnard, John Bishop, Councillor Judy Billing, Councillor Deacon Davis, Councillor Faye Frost, Councillor Kay Tart. Are there any other further apologies that I need to register?
Chair, I've just had a phone call from Val Shanley. He's got problems logging on with his computer and he's asked me to give his apologies.
Okay, if we can add Val to the list.
Chairman, I think there's also apologies from Gerald Morris.
And Gerald Morris as well, Councillor Morris. Have you got those, Hilary? Make sure you...
Yes, Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Right, any other business? Notification of other business? None?
Yes, I've got raised hand.
Councillor
Yeah, no, just to say, and I'm just really for the record, and obviously I've been exchanging messages with Councillor Barnard, who's obviously sadly away because his wife's seriously ill at the moment. Obviously, we could just formally record, Chair, that send our best wishes to David and to Faye and his family, and wishing obviously David's wife Sue a very speedy recovery.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Chairman, could I come in there, please, and say that I am going out to see David week after next. So if anyone wants to send any cards to him, they get them to me. I'll ensure that David receives them, or indeed Sue receives them. Thank you.
Thank you,
Michael.
That's very generous of you. So yes, we formally send our best wishes to Councillor Barnard and Faye and his wife. Yes, thank you for that, Councillor Albert. Talking about sad things, this is apparently this is the first time we've ever done it. We lost one of the chairs, or the mayor of Hartsmere this last week, and in a spirit of working with my fellow chain gang, if you want to call them that, I wanted to make sure that we actually acknowledge that we've lost one of the mayors of Hertfordshire from Hertsmere, and it's with great sadness I need to announce that she died, passed away, unfortunately, with brain cancer. So I'd just like to take a minute's silence, if you join me, just to acknowledge that we've lost a colleague from one of our fellow Hertfordshire district councils and borough councils. From now, yeah. Thank you. Audio recording. In accordance with the council policy, this meeting is being audio recorded as well as filmed. The audio recordings will be available to view on mod.gov and the film recording via the NHDC YouTube channel. Climate emergency. Members are reminded that the council has declared a climate emergency. This is a serious decision and means that, as this is an emergency to all of us, officers and members have that in mind when carrying out our various roles and duties and tasks for the benefit of the district. Moving on to long service. I'm very pleased that we have 3 acknowledgements of long service awards this evening, which is fantastic. Please, all of the officers are present at the meeting this evening. So all of our long service award officers are present this evening, which is a welcome to you. Can I ask them to turn on their cameras? And I'm going to ask Louise Symes, started with the council as a policy planner in January 1995, having recently emigrated from Durban in South Africa, where she worked as a planner for the South African government. Louise began as a principal planner in 2001 and took on the role of projects manager in 2005. From 2000 to 2013, Louise has been involved in preparing town centre strategies, planning briefs, as well as being involved in the delivery of various town centre enhancement schemes, which members will be aware of, including Sun Street in Hitchin, Baldock High Street, and Fish Hill Square in Royston. Louise was instrumental in the council winning a national award for the Baldock High Street project, the Horticultural Landscape and Amenities Award in 2009 under the category Best Commercial Project. Awarded in 2009 under the category of Best Project, yes, sorry. The scheme was awarded a certificate for special recognition, and in 2010, National Civic Trust Awards. Louise has also been involved in the project to develop the Churchgate Centre since 1999. Louise became a strategic planning and projects manager in 2012 and has been involved in the council's local plan submission. In her current role as strategic infrastructure and projects manager, Louise has also taken on the role of parking, which she sees as a new and interesting challenge, particularly with changes in technology. I'd like to congratulate and thank Louise for her service to the council of 25 years, I believe, yes. I'd like to move on to the second candidate, Almi Jamin. From humble beginnings in leisure services as a support assistant for parks and gardens, Amy has been joined the Revenue and Benefits Department a year later as a benefit officer. Shortly after attending her IRRV technical qualification, Amy became a senior benefits officer and managed a team of benefit officers responsible for frontline benefit services. In the latter part of 2003, Amy joined the technical team within the Revenues and Benefits Department as a senior technical officer responsible for monitoring and managing the benefit subsidy grant. Placing context on this, Amy has overseen over £542 million worth of central government subsidies to date. Amy has dedicated her career to providing much needed support for others, the authority, and remaining a highly valued member of a team and other stakeholders. Her team are managers, and I would like to thank her for her service and all the hard work over the last years, 25 years in fact. And the third candidate is Ross Allwood. NHDC has been extremely fortunate to have Ross Allwood as the helm of the North Herts Museum Service and for a service over the last 25 years. In this time, in her ability to develop high value personal contacts with the Lottery Fund and Arts Council, along with her talent for partnership working and creating joint projects with other museums, has allowed the team to punch well above their weight as a regional museum service. This has helped the district to benefit from grant funding and donations, which without Ross would simply have not been possible. As leading expert on the artist Ratcliffe, Ross has unearthed and acquired long lost works of art, which are now a valued part of North Herts Museum collection. She has also frequently beaten the odds, achieving ambitious fundraising targets at extremely short notice in order to purchase items at auction, which might otherwise have been lost from public view forever. She should be extremely proud of all of that she has achieved so far in her career, and perhaps most notably her integral role in the creation of the new North Herts Museum. It is safe to say that without Ross's knowledge and expertise, the district would not be benefiting from such a well thought out and beautifully presented museum. The district owes her a huge debt of gratitude for all of her selfless efforts and many late nights spent working at the office to realize the projects over many years. More recently, Ross has spearheaded and the successful efforts to secure the internationally significant Rembrandt in print exhibition, which has been seen by over 10,000 visitors, and which has really set the tone for the standard of exhibitions that our new facility now allows us to bring to the district for display. When asked for their contributions to this presentation, her team were full of praise for her abilities and her leadership, with one individual in her team summarizing, "After 29 years working in local government, I can honestly say she is the best boss," which really tells you that you need to know about all you need to know about the respect and fondness for a team. Have for her an exemplary NHDD staff member as an individual. Her 25 years of service in NHDC has been a huge asset to the organisation, and we are very grateful for all her work. I would like to propose from the chair that the council place on record its sincere thanks and appreciation to Lee Symes, Amy Jarmain and Ross Allwood for their long and valued service to local government. Can I have a seconder?
Chair. Right.
Is that Martin?
I think Val seconded your motion, Chair. I'd like to say just a few words, though. I think this evening we've got three colleagues who demonstrate what a fantastic team of staff we have and what great service they've given to the council. I remember
working with Louise when I was not on the council, but I was an independent chair of meetings in Hitchin over the Churchgate. And we had a room full of rather exercised and somewhat angry people at times. And Louise showed great professionalism in supporting me and supporting colleagues in dealing with those meetings. As you've already said, Chair, she's given great service to the council, and we've gained a great deal from that. And then we have Ros with us as well, Ros Allwood, and she's worked with her team to hold together over those difficult years and helped us open a fantastic world-beating, I think, new museum, and it was a great privilege to be there to open the museum. And then with Amy, although she's not as high profile, I think all the work that you've read out, Chair, this evening, and the work that she's given to the council shows that she has, in an equal way, given service to this council. So I'm very happy to support your proposal, Chair, and I think it's wonderful that we have all three here this evening. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Martin. Councillor Paul Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to add my hearty congratulations to all three officers for their dedication and service to the council. Obviously, Louise has the shortest straw because she has to put up with me on a regular basis, but I do admire her professionalism, her dedication that I see day in, day out, and it is a pleasure, and we are lucky as a council to have her. Ross, I've worked with over the years, and as Martin says, we now have a world-class facility. Amy has managed to escape, so she might have the luckiest thing, but the revenue and benefits is an important part of this council. So I do congratulate her on the work she does and the work they do for the council, and fully support your motion of thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor David Levitt.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, I'd like to add my congratulations to all three. We see these things felt more and more regular now, where we're seeing long service awards, and it just goes to show the amount of experience and valuable experience this council has supporting us as members and supporting the way the council operates. Of these three, actually, I don't know Amy that well, but I know the amount of work she does, and spending 25 years working for North Herts Council has got to be pretty good for anybody. Ros, I've seen a bit of work with during the museum refurbishment and changes to the town hall and everything, and Ros remains quite unflappable throughout the lot. We're dealing with contractors going bust, deliveries not turning up, equipment not working, IT and that, and she just carries on all through it and makes sure everything happens. So well done with that, Ros, and the result of that is an example to any council with that new museum facility. Coming back to Louise, who I've had, prior to Paul, had the honour to work with for a number of years in my planning portfolio and through the preparation of the local plan. Louise's work has been absolutely outstanding. She goes well out of her way, works long hours, well after she needs to do. During the original local plan hearings, I was getting emails from her early hours of the morning, very late at night, when we were staying behind at the hearing meetings till sometime, I think a couple of evenings we were there, we got 10 o'clock at night, and then we were back again at 7 o'clock the next morning. Louise was always there. The other stuff she's worked on outside bodies and parkings and things, parking stuff. And plus, of course, because I can't drive when we've been going to some of these meetings, Louise has often acted as my chauffeur, picking me up and bringing me back. And thank you for that, Louise. It's very much appreciated, rather than having to try and manage some of these places on public transport. So thank you very much for that, Louise. And keep with it, Louise, please. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Would any other councillor member like to speak? Okay, I've got nobody registered, so we'll take a vote that the council place on record its sincere thanks and appreciation to Louise Symes, Amy Jarmain and Ros Allwood for their long and valued service to the local government for the last 25 years. Seconded by Val Bryant, yes. Hilary, can I ask you to take the vote, please?
Yes, if you want to use your usual manner to vote please. That is carried, Chair.
Thank you.
That's more unanimously. Thank you.
Fabulous, fabulous. Can I invite Ros Allwood to address the council? Oh, you're on mute at the moment, Ros.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can do, yes. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much for all that. It was a great team effort, the new museum. And really, I just wanted to, to thank North Herts for having me here for so long, but particularly to invite any members who haven't yet been to the museum to do come along, because it's so fantastic for Hitchin and for the whole district. And it does really cover the whole district. So just if you haven't been, just please do come along. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you, Elise, and congratulations on your long service. Declarations of interest is our next item. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed member reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under the Chairman's announcements on the agenda.
Chairman, Richard Thake.
Councillor Thake?
Yeah, rather than let it get to the meeting, the item, and me commit the sin of forgetting, I need to declare an interest in respect of the appointment to the Standards Board, in as much as one of the nominees is a personal family friend or long-standing family friend, and I have taken advice from the monitoring officer and will not take part in that debate, nor will I vote. I do not consider it to be a prejudicial interest, so I will not be leaving the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Thake. Duly noted. Rules of debate. Please can I remind you that the normal procedure of rules in respect to debate and times to speak will apply. No speeches may be made after the mover has moved the proposal and explain the purpose of it until the motion has been seconded. When seconding a motion or amendment, a member may reserve their right to speak until later in the debate. In accordance with the Constitution, please can members ensure that no speech exceeds 5 minutes without my consent. The next thing is comfort breaks. We're in for quite a long session, I believe, this evening. And so around 9 o'clock, I'll be looking at a convenient time to have a break of between 5 and 10 minutes. Should there be a necessity later on for a further break, then I will make sure that happens too. And order of business. There are 2 referrals from the Cabinet that include Part 2 reports, 5, B and C, and these will be taken at the end of the meeting. I will also be taking item 8 immediately after item 4. Okay. Public participation, we have none this evening. Members and officers' indemnity. Please note that the reference should be made to the report published separate to the agenda, titled Member and Officer Indemnity Addendum. Can I ask and call Councillor Albert to present and propose?
Thanks, Chair. The papers here in front of you, just a brief sort of explanation. The council can indemnify a member or officer when they're acting in the course of their duties and in good faith. The returning officer on the electoral registration officer by virtue of their position at the council and at all times is acting at the request of or with the approval of the council. Currently, the NHDC agreement provides a general limit of £100,000 in respect of the indemnity unless agreed by full council. Electoral registration officers and returning officers are personally responsible for ensuring that they comply with the requirements of data protection legislation. Now, under the Data Protection Act 1998, the maximum fine the Information Commission officer is entitled to levy of an electoral registration officer or returning officer is £500,000, which is higher than the council's current limit of £100,000. Now, this report proposes that the ERO, the electoral registration officer, and the returning officer be granted an indemnity to cover this personal liability placed on the officer under the Data Protection Act 1998. Now, the council does not have a history of challenge to its elections, and so the risk of a call on the indemnity is low, but the impact of a claim on the individual would be significant. There's been no claim on the indemnity policy since it was adopted in 2001. And of course, it is also subject to the restrictions which are detailed in Appendix A in front of you in para 771 of the policy. So I'm asking council on that basis to agree recommendations 2.1 to 2.3 of the paper in front of you this evening. I move.
Can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Chair, happy to second. I preserve my right to speak.
Okay, Councillor Asdeer-Hampton, seconding. Would anybody like to speak? Like to comment? I've got nothing coming up at the moment, so is everybody happy with the following proposals that Councillor Alberts put forward? 2.1, the council authorize amendments to the adopted officer member indemnity and insurance agreement, which are 2.2, that the returning officer, the electoral registration officer, is granted indemnity under the provisions of the local authority indemnity for members and officers order 2004 to cover as far as the law allows for uninsured personal liability arising from appointments. 2.3, the fines which exceed £100,000 is related to the RO and ERO posts are covered by the indemnity and are not subject to referral to the full council for consideration, except for 7(1) of the policy. Hilary, can you take us to the vote, please?
Yes, Chair, if all members would like to vote in the normal way, please. That's carried, Chair.
Thank you, Hilary. Now moving on to items referred to from other committees. This is where we're moving, aren't we? Are we jumping? Is 5A and 5B?
No, you're going to do 5A, D, E, and F before.
All right. Okay. Sorry, I know that we're going to move some of that. Sorry. Yeah. All right. So because some of it's in part 2. So 5A, item referred from Cabinet 21st of July 2020, risk management update. Can I call upon Councillor Ian Albert to present and propose, please?
Thank you. Thanks, Chair. And really mainly for noting the paper. Throughout 2019-20, the Finance Audit and Risk Committee received quarterly reports on the management of the council's corporate risk and associated risk issues, and where necessary refer these reports to Cabinet. And obviously thank the Finance Committee and obviously the Risk Management Group that Ian Cooper chairs for all of their work. In November 2019, the Shared Internal Audit Service undertook an audit of risk management. The subsequent recommendations led to a fundamental review of NHDC's approach, and in March 2020, a new risk management framework was approved. This replaced the existing risk and opportunities management policy statement and strategy documents. And the significant changes are summarised in section 5, and the new documentation is available on the risk management intranet page. And officers will undertake further work during this financial year to develop and implement associated operational guidance and e-learning to complete the framework. We've also had support from Herts County Council to deliver the council's insurance services, and the County Council's risk and insurance manager attends the risk management group meetings. And finally, perhaps just to say that during the year, the NHDC continued to implement robust risk management processes, including the regular review and reporting of corporate risks, And the approval of that new risk management framework that I mentioned will further improve these practices and ensure a better understanding of the risks that the council faces. This in turn will help the council determine the most cost-effective way to manage these risks and to exploit associated opportunities. And as a result, I believe that the council will become even more risk aware. So I commend the annual risk management report to you and move that document. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Albert. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Martin. Moving on to debate, Councillor Daniel Allen.
My apologies, Chair. I didn't realise my hand was up.
Oh, okay. Would anybody like to speak in debate on this item? I have no hands up now, which is good. Okay, I'd like to take us to the vote then. The recommendation is that the annual report on the risk management is to be noted. Hilary, can I ask you to take us to the vote, please?
Yes, if you can vote in the normal way, please. And that's carried, Chair.
Thank you, Hilary. 5B, item referred to.
You're muted, Chair.
(5B) anyway.
Sorry about that. I don't think I pressed anything, but yes, apologies. I didn't mean to mute myself somehow. This includes reference to Part 2 report that will be considered now, and instead, will not be considered now, absolutely, and instead considered at the end of the meeting. So we move on to 5C. Item reference from the Cabinet, 21st of July 2020, COVID-19 leisure contracts recovery. This includes reference to Part 2 material and report, and will not be considered now, and instead will be considered at the end of the meeting. I understand that Democratic Services Manager would be removed from the meeting whilst the following item is discussed, given that they are named individual within the recommendation.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Melanie. And we're moving to Part 2 now, Melanie. Sorry, I've got a note here. Hilary?
No, you're not moving into Part 2. I'm just being
Sorry, there's a little note here about breakout. So you're going to a breakout room, will you?
Yeah, I'm just being recused from the meeting.
Okay, sorry about the misunderstanding there. Okay, item 5D, item referred from the Employment Committee, 25th of August 2020, recruitment to roles of returning officer, electoral registration officer. Councillor Martin Steers-Hanscom to present and propose.
Thank you, Chair. I simply need to move the unanimous recommendation of the Employment Committee that Melanie Stimpson be appointed to those two posts. So I move.
Thank you.
I'm happy to second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Is that why your hand is up?
Yes.
You wish to speak as well? No, okay. So Councillor Clark to second. Is there any debate on this particular item? No hands are up. That's great. Then Hilary, can I ask you to take us to the vote, which is the recommendation that the full council be recommended to appoint Melanie Stimpson as the role of returning officer and electoral registration officer.
Right, I've just cleared all the votes. If you can now vote and ensure your vote has been registered, please.
Oops. Any trouble, yeah, that's it.
And that's carried, Chair.
Great, thank you. Can we return Melanie to us?
I'm just admitting her, Chair. She should be with us in a second. Melanie, can you confirm when you're back, please?
Hello, yes, I'm back now. Thank you.
Welcome back, Melanie, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. I take that that's good news.
That is very good news for you. Yes, and well, congratulations again. Moving on to 5E, item referred from Cabinet 15th of September 2020, Council Plan and Objectives 2021 to 2026. Can I call upon Councillor Martin Steers-Hampton to present the proposed, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The council plan now has been through all its stages, and we finally come to council for approval. I need to remind you that the council objectives are that we be a welcoming, inclusive and efficient council, build thriving and resilient communities, respond to challenges of the environment, enable an enterprising and cooperative economy, and support the delivery of good quality and affordable homes. That is at the top of the plan. Appendix A, the detailed plan, and Appendix B, the proposed actions, have been through the full council workshop. We're grateful for the contribution of all councillors as they were able to the development of the plan, and we now come to adopt it this evening. I should also particularly thank Ruben and his colleagues for the enormous amount of work that went in by officers, both working with executive members and in putting together the detail of the plan. It's been a very full job. We, of course, bearing in mind that we're having to look at the plan in the context of COVID and the work that we've continued to do to support our communities. So I'm happy to move the plan, obviously happy to deal with any points that people want to raise. So I move.
Thank you, Martin. Do I have a seconder, please?
Councillor Clark has his hand up.
I had my blue hand up. Yes, I am delighted to second.
Thank you, Councillor Clark.
I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. You're right. Moving on to the debate. So we're debating that the full council adopts Appendix A, B and C, which are all linked to the local plan. I have nobody with their hands raised to speak, so I'm assuming that nobody wishes to speak. So therefore, I would like to take us into the vote with the recommendation that the full council adopt the Appendix A, Council Plan from 2021 to 2026, Appendix B, Proposed Actions, Appendix C, Achievements, including the addendum. Hilary, can I ask you to take us into the vote, please?
Yes, Chair, if you can all vote in the normal way, please. That's carried, Chair.
Thank you, Hilary. We're moving on to item 5F, item referred from Cabinet the 15th of September 2020, medium-term financial strategy. If I could call upon Councillor Ian Albert to present and propose, please.
Thanks, Chair. And we'll take a moment or two to try and go through this paper, and I think it's a really important one. It's now sort of 7 months since, more than 7 months since I moved the budget report back in February. And clearly the world has changed a bit since then, and I think the Chancellor today explained something very similar. Not that I'm necessarily comparing myself to a Conservative Chancellor, but it is important that we have medium-term financial strategy when setting the council plan, as we need to know what funding is available for those plans. And I think the recognition that we that we have here as a council, and I hope this will be shared by all councillors here in all parties, is that whilst we welcome the additional funding that government has provided, we still have left us a significant shortfall in this year, and also we've to prepare a medium-term financial strategy. It would be much better to have much more certainty around, for example, new funding formula, and also to enable us to better set a budget in February to have a long-term funding settlement. And none of these things we've got, and this very much is the backdrop to our medium-term financial strategy. The overall message from the report is that there is going to be little additional funding available, and we will need to carefully review what we spend our money on, and I'll come to that later. That doesn't mean that the council plan can't set aspirations of what we'd like to achieve, but it does mean, as we go through the more detailed process, that we will need to review of when and to what extent the things that we can achieve. The detail in relation to this report is in Appendix A in front of you, and I'll provide a brief summary of the significant items. The section starting at paragraph 2.6 details the forecast impacts of COVID-19. This is made up of our hit to our reserves in this financial year as we fund the additional expenditure and lost income that is not covered by government grant or the income guarantee. There will be an impact on council tax income this year, arising partly from subdued housing growth, but mainly due to increased eligibility for council tax reduction. There is also a significant potential impact on business rates income where businesses are unable to pay the rates that they owe. And due to the way that council tax and business rates are accounted for, the actual financial impact will be in the next financial year. We also need to consider the longer term impacts. There's real risk that our income will not return to normal levels next year, and paragraph 2.9 considers some of the sensitivities in relation to this. And another big concern is the impact on the council tax base that is detailed in paragraph 2.8. Now, our strategy here isn't saying that there's no need for housing growth, nor is it actually saying there will be no housing growth. In the past, the medium-term financial strategy has assumed a net 1% growth in the council tax base. A few years ago, this was sometimes an underestimate, but in recent years has been a small overestimate. And it should be noted that this relates to net growth, which is made up of three main components: growth in overall property numbers through building, less the additional cost of the council of providing services to those new properties. For example, the additional cost of waste collection takes out over 25% of any growth. Thus, future housing growth will tend to be concentrated. That might also bring additional cost pressures. It's also less the changes in eligibility for the council tax reduction scheme. As households become eligible for the reduction scheme, we don't collect a lower percentage of the original council tax amount. Instead, it reduces the tax base, i.e. equivalent number of properties paying the council tax. We've already seen council tax reduction scheme numbers increase from a budgeted level of Band D equivalents of 3,869 to 5,105 under COVID-19. And the ending of furlough schemes and ongoing recession could see these numbers go up further, notwithstanding obviously the announcements that have been made today. And the revised forecast of zero growth is a prudent assumption and is for modelling purposes only. The council needs to be aware of what the bad case would look like and plan accordingly. If it turns out that we don't have to implement so many either reductions or look for other efficiencies, that's great, but we still need to start that plan. And whilst it may not explicitly say it, the strategy does assume that our local plan will be adopted. Forecasts in the medium and longer term are likely to be even worse, in fairness, if it was not adopted. It should be noted that the strategy is also a plan with a 5-year time horizon. There will be a time lag between the adoption of the local plan and people moving into the properties and starting to pay council tax. And that time lag is likely to be longer than usual in a period where we're faced with economic conditions like now. And we've still got potential Brexit impacts to add to that mix. As detailed in paragraph 2.32, there is a consideration of some positive outcomes that would affect the strategy. One of those clearly is that economic recovery could result in housing growth in later years, which could include some degree of catch-up. That will then provide more funding than is currently forecast and mean a reduced impact on any service delivery and services. As detailed in paragraph 2.11, the pay award for 2021 has now been agreed at 2.75%. This has been now used for future years, although the settlement was for 1 year only. And in future years, it will be subject to further negotiation. Actual future pay deals might be less if in economic conditions that mean that we have low price inflation. As detailed in section paragraph 2.22, where we have a high uncertainty, as I mentioned earlier, about what our future funding will be. The new funding formula and business rates changes have been delayed again to be announced sometime in the next financial year for implementation in 22-23. Funding for next year will be on the same basis as this year and is therefore assumed that negative RSG will not apply. However, we cannot be sure about this, so the strategy considers the impact if it was to apply, which would be a further hit on our reserves. The table in paragraph 2.29 shows that 2.65 million of annual savings might be required by 25-26. The table also profiles the timing of those savings. This proposed timing maintains a general fund balance in excess of 6 million and therefore provides us with some protection against the forecast getting worse. But it should be noticed that the strategy and the council tax budget will be kept under regular review. And finally, Chair, I just draw the attention of colleagues to paragraph 2.33, which sets out the actions. One of our immediate actions has been to set up what we've described as a challenge group, which will meet and hold meetings during next month with service directors and executive members. We will look thoroughly at all areas of our expenditure to look for ways of making savings, efficiencies, look for ways of delivering services differently, look for ways of actually generating income. And all of those will then help feed in to the budget workshops that will take place in November and also then run into the budget setting. And when we come to actually setting the budget in February. And I very much see that challenge process as being something that we will need to take forward in the next financial year, because I think that is critical to reserve all of the actually look carefully at all of the things that we do to make sure that we think that they're right for the time and they're right in the way of actually making sure that our services reflect what our public and what our residents want. And we will be looking to consult with residents next year about the types of services that we have. So I commend this strategy to you. I would urge, I hope, all councillors here to support the strategy. This isn't easy. But I don't think anyone would pretend otherwise for local authorities, for our residents faced with so many different issues and problems at the moment. But I do commend the strategy. I think it is the right way forward, and I think it is the right way forward for this council and our district both in the next financial year and the years following. Thanks, Chair. I move.
Thank you, Ian. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Martin. Moving to debate, is there anybody like to speak? I've got no hands raised at this point. And there still are not, so I'm assuming there's no debate. If we're going to move into the vote, and the recommendation is that the medium-term financial strategy 2021 to 26, as attached to Appendix A, be adopted by the Council. Hilary, can I ask you to take us to the vote, please?
Yes, if members would like to vote in the usual manner, please. And that's carried, Chair.
Thank you, Hilary. Fantastic, right. And moving on to item 6, the appointment of the reserved independent person and confirmation of existing appointments. Service Director, Legal and Community, Jeanette Thompson, to present. Can I call upon you, Jeanette, to speak?
I think Councillor Brown is going to do so, Chair. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes, it does. Yes. Councillor Brown, I apologise. Please, can you propose?
Okay, so we're proposing to appoint a new reserve independent person. So I'm sure most of you are aware the main role of the independent and the reserve independent person and deputies is to support the monitoring officer and the standards committee in when there are complaints that come to the council, and those can be complaints against parish and town councillors as well as district. The situation we find ourselves in is that the deputy reserve person is no longer an IP with Broxbourne, and so we're down to 2 people. And also the national context is that the Committee for Standards in Public Life have recommended that it hasn't been made law yet, but their recommendation is that these independent persons are appointed on a fixed term, so a maximum of 4 years with a 2-year review. And so at this point, we needed to recruit an extra person to aid in succession planning, but also to make sure we've got the capacity to deal with the level of complaints that we're likely to have, and also to avoid any conflicts, because the 2 current people we have live in very much the same area. So it's good to have someone from a slightly different area, particularly when you're dealing with parish complaints. So that's kind of the background. We also have to have a minimum of 2 independent persons because they're required to sit on the employment panel. And they also have to undertake training, which takes a while. So we need to be planning ahead in case the current people who've been in post for some time should wish to move on, retire, or so forth. So it was recommended to council in the standards committee reports that we should recruit. So we've carried out that recruitment process, and we only actually had 1 applicant who fulfilled the eligibility criteria. But when we interviewed John Richardson, he far exceeded the requirements. And so we're recommending the appointment of John Richardson as the reserve independent person. We're recommending that we can confirm Nicholas Moss and Peter Chapman to continue in their current roles as independent and reserve independent person. And at the same time, we are recommending that all of these appointments are made on a 4-year term with up to 4 years maximum with a 2-year review. So if council approves these recommendations tonight, what you're approving is you're approving these people to be appointed for 4 years, and the 2-year review will be delegated to the monitoring officer and the standards chair and vice chair of the standards committee, which is Judy Billing and myself, and also to take off the previous person who is no longer an IP with Broxbourne. Now, it was necessary to recruit. It would be great if we could share independent persons across more of the councils, but Nicholas Moss is already shared with East Herts. There are no other authorities we can borrow from, so we need to appoint our own person. It does cost a little bit of money. It's not a huge amount, £550, but it gives us more capacity. It gives us more resilience. It enables us to prepare for the succession planning for the future. And I wasn't aware until fairly recently, so maybe other members may not have been aware either, that the reserve independent person is really important for members, because if a member is subject to an allegation, it's the reserve independent person that they can go to in confidence for advice on procedural matters. And so the independent person and the reserve independent person have slightly different roles. So, and there is a bit of a technicality about the naming of it, but so we're going from an independent person, a reserve and a deputy reserve, to an independent and 2 reserves. And also in the recommendations, we're asking you to delegate authority to the monitoring officer and the chair and vice chair of standards also to appoint the reserve into the independent person should someone retire. So that's to 2.4. Okay, so is there anything else I need to say? I think that's it. I'll take any questions if anybody has any questions, but I would like to move the recommendations 2.1 to 2.4.
Thank you, Ruth. Do we have a seconder, please?
Yes, Chair, I'm happy to second, reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Martin. Moving into debate, I have 3 hands up. So first of all, Councillor Sam North.
Thank you very much, Chair. This is, for me, a very difficult report to support. I completely support the appointment of John Richardson as an independent person. I think he would be fantastic for the council for the period of 4 years within his term. What I do, however, struggle with is the continued appointment of Nicholas Moss and Peter Chapman, not due to any personal reasons, but due to the fact that they have been independent people for this council for so long, in total 8 years, and previously served within standards committees, and so have been a part of North Hertfordshire District Council for 15 and 13 years, respectively. I therefore believe that that would remove them from being eligible as independent due to their length of service with the council, which clearly is not a bad thing, and we are very grateful for their service. However, I do feel that that would prevent them from being completely independent. So I would ask, Chair, that we take the recommendations individually, so that I can support John Richardson as an independent person, but maintain my ability to object to the continued appointment of those other 2 independent people.
Okay, Councillor North, thank you, Sam. Yes, we will take them as individual items, then 2.1 through to 2.4 upon your request. Councillor David Levitt.
Thank you, Chairman. Actually, that's just changed a little bit what I was going to say. First thing I'd like to say, though, is the appointment of Mr. Richardson is, to me, a really good idea. He chaired the independent review of the Hitchin Town Hall for the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, did an excellent job on that, which I think all the Overview and Scrutiny Committee members acknowledged and were really pleased with, and we gave him thanks at the time, and we also did that at full council as well. So I think that's a really good appointment. With regard to the appointment of Mr. Moss and Mr. Chapman, I've been through this process from both sides, both as a member of standards and as being investigated by standards. And I have to say that I've dealt with both of those gentlemen for some time. Their knowledge and experience of this council and this council's procedures is absolutely invaluable and irreplaceable. I know now we have to go with a time limited thing, and they can only serve for 4 years, but that's not retrospective. That applies from now. That's not retrospective. We need to appoint these people. They have got the experience. They have got the knowledge. They know what they're doing. They are very, very fair, and they are totally independent. And I've always found that all the way through. So I'm quite shocked actually to hear somebody say that we should get rid of them. Can't believe that. But I fully support their appointment and think we should continue with it. And Mr. Chairman, I would like to call for a recorded vote on this particular one, if we're taking it in 3 places, please. Thank you.
Duly noted, Councillor Levitt, it will be recorded vote. Councillor Paul Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to check one thing on the, we had the selection criteria, which the selection criteria states that they must live in North Hertfordshire, which I think limits us slightly in the people we can pick from. So going forward, I would actually like to see that removed and open, Central Beds is very close to us, as is East Herts, and there could be people living over the border that can do the job and give us the expertise. on the particular case of Mr. Richardson, he will require experience. He will have a steep learning curve coming in. So I think I'm mainly persuaded to go with Mr. Moss and Mr. Chapman for another couple of years at least, and then review the situation further down there. As Councillor Levitt says, they've got the experience, and that's possibly what the two new people need, to help them learn, train, and I'm sure they will be as excellent as the current incumbents. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Michael Weeks.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just going to say I totally agree with what David Levitt has said. The integrity of Nicholas and Peter is beyond reproach. Nicholas is a JP, just stood down, recently honoured, and Peter was a headmaster of long standing in Baldock. Their experience and their knowledge is second to none, Chairman. It would be foolish to lose them. So I'm with both of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Councillor Sam Collins.
Thank you, Chair. I think it needs to be made clear that nobody is questioning anything of the integrity of any of these independent people. They're all clearly great at what they do. The question, I think, raised by Councillor North was the fact that we're putting together something where we're putting time limits on independent people and then appointing somebody who's served for much, much longer than that time limit. It seems slightly contradictory. And I think that's the only point that Councillor North is raising. And then just to sort of ask for a slight clarification, Councillor Levitt asked for a recorded vote. Is that on each individual part of this or on the overall thing?
I've assumed it on each individual part. Is that correct? Yeah.
Correct, Chairman.
Councillor Collins, oh, you finished? Yes. Okay. Jeanette Thompson.
Yeah, sorry, I feel at this stage I need to just reiterate the position that we would be placed in as a council if under 2.2 that was not approved, because you would essentially have a completely inexperienced person who would undertake the role as an independent person who hasn't been trained, who would essentially be the only one that we've got to cover the employment panel. And we do need up to 2 members to sit on that, legally under the requirements of regulations from 2015, as well as to consider any complaints that we have in the matter. So it would place us in a very difficult position, as Councillor Brown has said, if their appointments at this stage were not approved. Although I wholly agree that, obviously a further recruitment exercise can be undertaken as soon as feasible to start that ongoing process where we are having more people coming in and training them up. But we do need some time to be able to do that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jeanette. Councillor Ruth Brown.
If no one else wants to speak, I just wanted to exercise my right of reply. Is that okay?
Yes, you may do. Yes.
Okay. Yes, so I understand the viewpoints that have been expressed, and I would just like to concur with what Sam Collins said, that no one's questioning anybody's integrity. I think what is being suggested is that after so long that it becomes more difficult to argue that they're truly independent, however much integrity or objectivity they have. However, we need to plan for the future. We need to keep them for now. We need their experience. We need them to have the opportunity to pass on their experience. As has been stated, it's only now that we're introducing the idea of a fixed term. So going forward, we will not be in this situation again. But right now we are in this situation. We need at least 2 people, and 3 is better. So I fully support the recommendation that we confirm to continue the appointment of Nicholas Moss and Peter Chapman with the addition of John Richardson. John was demonstrated a lot of humility at interview, that he wants to learn, that he doesn't know a lot about how the council standards work. So he has got some training to do. He needs to learn from these people who have a vast amount of experience to pass on, and we need a transition period to do that. And so we will be looking in the next 2 years, and I think the report says this, to think about recruiting further people with a view to some succession planning. And I just wanted to address the issue that Councillor Clark raised on selection criteria. We are planning in future appointments, a future recruitment, to remove the requirement to live within the district. Personally, I think living outside the district is not a bad thing. It may make you even more independent. So, and obviously we have used independent persons from other districts, shared them with other districts anyhow. So it's a slightly strange criteria to put in. So going forward, we will not be using that criteria. That will be removed. I think I've addressed everything I wanted to address. So yes, I want to move the recommendation.
I've just got to, before we move the recommendation, Councillor Simon Harwood would like to speak.
Yes, it's just a point of order, Chair. To save Hillary reading out 116 names, can I just recommend, perhaps if Councillor North is in agreement, that we take 2-1, 2-3 and 2-4 as a single vote, and then we take 2-2, which I presume is the recommendation that Councillor North is referring to separately. So it moves us down from 116 names down to simply, I think, about 68.
That does make sense, Councillor Harwood. Councillor North, are you okay with that?
Yes, Chair, completely happy to support that suggestion.
It was Councillor Levitt who actually called for the recorded vote, so it should be him.
Oh, sorry.
Who agrees it.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Levitt. Then are you?
Yeah, I'm happy with that, Chairman.
So we're taking 2.1, 2.3, and 2.4 as one, and 2.2 as a second vote. Is that right? Good. In that case, Hillary, can I ask you to take the vote on 2.1, 2.3, and 2.4, please?
Certainly, Chair. Do you want me to read the recommendations, 2.1, 2.2 and 2.4?
I think yeah, I'm getting a lot of shakes of heads there, so I'm thinking no. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please, Chairman.
Okay, in that case, if someone does want it read out. So 2.1 is...
Are you being serious, Mr. Fake? Richard, sorry.
Let's be on the safe side. 2.1, that council appoints John Richardson as reserve independent person. 2.2, that council confirms the continuing appointment of Nicholas. Oh, sorry, we're taking 2.2, 2.3 and 2.4 together. Sorry, 2.3 is that council confirms that the appointment of Stephen Barb as deputy reserve independent ceases, and 2.4 that council delegates to the monitoring officer in consultation with the chair, vice chair of standards, the decision in the event that the current independent person decides within term not to continue or no longer qualifies, to appoint one of the existing reserve independent persons as the independent person, and or to undertake further recruitment as may be required. So you are voting on 2.1, 2.3 and 2.4. I'm going to call your surnames out. If you can answer for, against or abstain, please. Councillor Albert?
For.
Alan?
For.
Aspinwall?
Connection dropped out. I'm unable to vote on this.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Barnard's not here. Claire Billing?
Sorry, for.
Thank you. Brown?
For.
Bryant? For. Clark?
You're muted. Or unmuted.
Thank you. Collins?
For.
Davidson? Councillor Davidson?
Oh, so you are. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson.
Sorry, I didn't hear that response.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Davies.
4.
Thank you. Dennis Hardberg.
4.
Derbyshire.
4.
Frost, he's not here, sorry. Green. 4. Grindle.
4.
Harwood.
4.
Hone.
4.
Hoskins.
4.
Hewson.
4.
Hunter.
4.
Jarvis.
4.
Levitt.
4.
Mantle.
4.
McNally.
4.
Moody.
4.
Muir.
4.
Nash.
4.
Nguala.
4.
North.
4.
Oliver.
4.
Prendergast.
4.
Rice. Councillor Rice.
4.
Thank you. Bajira Chaka.
4.
He's not here, sorry. Stania.
4.
Steers Hanscom.
4.
Strong.
4.
Bake.
4.
Tyler.
4.
Tyson.
4.
Weeks.
4.
Thank you. That's carried with just one abstention, all the rest in favour. So we'll move on to 2.2, which is that council confirms the continuing appointment of Nicholas Moss as independent person and Peter Chapman, reserve independent person. Such appointment or confirmation continuing appointments under 2.1 and 2.2 be on the basis of a fixed term of up to 4 years, 2 years with a delegation to the monitoring officer in consultation with the chair, vice chair of standards to extend for a further 2 years. So again, if I can ask you to say for, against or abstain when I call your surnames, please. So Albert.
4.
Alan.
4.
Aspinwall.
Unable to vote on this.
Sorry, you're unable to vote. Sorry, yes. He's not there. Claire Billing.
4.
Brown.
4.
Bryant.
4.
Clark.
4.
Collins.
Abstain.
Davidson. Councillor Davidson.
Yeah. 4.
Thank you. Davis.
4.
Dennis Harberg.
4.
Derbyshire.
4.
Green. 4. Grindle.
4.
Harwood.
4.
Hone.
4.
Hoskins.
4.
Hewson.
4.
Hunter.
4.
Jarvis.
4.
Levitt.
4.
Mansell.
4.
McNally.
4.
Moody.
4.
Muir.
4.
Nash.
4.
Nguala.
4.
North.
Abstain.
Oliver.
4.
Prendergast.
4.
Rice.
4.
Ruggiero Chaka.
4.
Stania.
4.
Steers Hanscom.
4.
Strong. Fake,
4.
Tyler,
4.
Tyson,
4.
Weeks.
4.
So that is carried with 2 abstentions, the rest in favour. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. We're moving on to item 7. I'm realising it's coming up 10 to 9. So hopefully after item 7, we will take a break. So the item 7 is appointment of the parish town representatives to the Standards Committee. Can I call upon Jeanette Thompson to present?
I declare my interest again, Chairman, and won't leave the meeting.
Thank
Chair,
you.
I'm presenting this.
Yeah.
Oh, Ruth, are you? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm presenting this.
Can I call Ruth to present and propose?
So this is for the appointment of the parish and town council representatives to the Standards Committee. It's recommended that we have 4 representatives from parish town councils within the district, preferably to represent different parish and town councils and wide-ranging ones. And this is to avoid potential conflicts and to provide representation, because actually the majority of complaints that we receive come from parish and town councils. So they provide a really important role on the Standards Committee, and we currently only have 1 because 2 have recently resigned. So it's important that we appoint some more people. So we actually had 3 vacancies. We had interviewed 2 for 2 posts, and it's recommended that we appoint Councillor Martin Griffin from Gravely Parish Council and Councillor Rebecca Elliott from St Hippolyte's Parish Council. I wasn't personally involved in interviewing, but I'm told that they were very different candidates who will complement each other very well and represent parish council life very well. They will be appointed not on a fixed term, they're appointed for as long as they remain councillors or until they resign. But obviously councillors are elected on a fixed term, so it shouldn't be indefinite. So I'm going to propose that we confirm these co-optee appointments to the Standards Committee as has been set out in Appendix A1.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Brown. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Martin. Actually, I did seek advice from Jeanette, just to let you know that Gravely is under my ward, but I don't know Martin that well, so I believe that I don't need to recuse myself. So we can go into any debate. Is there any questions or anything that the members would like to ask at this point? I've got no hands at this point raised. So I'm assuming, and there still is none, that there is no debate. So the recommendations is the full council confirm the co-optees appointed to the Standards Committee as set out in Appendix A. And if I could ask Hilary to take us into the vote, please.
Yes, please vote in the normal way, please, members. I think that's carried, Chair.
Thank you, Hilary. At this point, I'm advising to take a break for a while. Would everybody like just 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Is there any view? Please, yes, please. Councillor Oliver? Yes, is that for 10 minutes?
I was holding up 5, as in.
Oh, I thought we were just raising hand. 5 minutes, 5 minutes it is. At this time, it's 20:55, so we'll reconvene again at 9 o'clock then. Okay. If you can turn off your videos and audio. If I can call everybody back to order, please. We still have a few more to come back. Please, please, can you reconnect, councillors? Okay, Hilary, can I ask you to do a roll count for us, that we've got everybody back?
Certainly, Chair. Again, I'm just going to call surnames. Albert?
Yep.
Alan?
Yes.
Aspinwall? I'll come back to Councillor Aspinwall in a minute. Claire Billing?
I'm here.
Brown?
Here.
Bryant? I'll come back to Councillor Bryant in a minute. Clark?
Present.
Collins?
Hello.
Davidson?
Here.
Davies?
Here.
Dennis Harburg?
Yeah.
Derbyshire?
Yeah.
Sorry, Green? Here. Grindle?
Hello.
Harwood?
Yeah.
Hone?
Present.
Hoskins?
Yeah. Here.
Hewson?
Yeah.
Hunter?
Present.
Jarvis?
Yes, I'm here.
Levitt?
Yeah.
Mantle?
Yes.
McNally?
Present.
Moody?
Present.
Muir?
Present.
Nash?
Present.
Nguala?
Here.
North?
Yeah.
Oliver?
Here.
Prendergast?
Here.
Rice?
Present.
Vajera Chaka?
Present.
Stania?
Present.
Diz Hanscom?
Present.
Strong?
Present.
Fake? Back to that in a moment. Tyler?
Present.
Tyson?
Yeah.
Weeks?
Present.
Just nip back to Councillor Aspinwall.
I think you find she's on the telephone.
Okay.
It's
Okay. The other one.
muted at the moment.
Okay. Councillor Bryant. Councillor Val Bryant. And what about Councillor Fake? Okay, I'm going to come back to those three. I'll just call the officers. Ian Fullstone.
Present.
Jeanette Thompson.
Present.
Ian Cooper.
Present.
Vaughan Watson.
Present.
Ruben Arvu.
Present.
Melanie Stimpson.
Present.
Yoanetta Katavu.
Present.
Thank you. William Edwards.
Present.
And I'm going to make a final call for Councillor Aspinwall. No.
Apologies, I am present, Hilary. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Val Bryant.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Richard Fake.
It's not on the list.
His desk is empty.
Okay. It's up to you, Chair, whether we wait or you can continue, but Councillor Fake won't be able to vote.
We'll give it 2 minutes.
But just Chairman, a point of order. I can see one councillor with a camera turned off.
Ah, yes, please turn all your cameras on. Thank you, Councillor Strong. Councillor Nguala. Thank you. Does anybody know how to contact Richard without any of our
I'll ask my colleague William if he can look up the number and give him a call.
I can ring him now if that's if you want, Chair.
If you could, Martin, that'd be great. Was it Martin?
Simon.
Sorry, Simon. Yes, please do.
While we're having a little break, then,
Who's
just
back
as
there?
a point of interest, I don't know if members have noticed it. If you want to get off mute quickly, and on some devices, if you just hold your space bar, it'll take your mute off.
I think
Just a little
Richard's
tip.
back now.
Councillor Flake's with us now.
Great. Well, thank you. Right. So did everybody hear that? There's a tip for muting, unmuting. Hit your space bar from Councillor Strong, which is a much easier way of doing it, I think.
Chairman, Councillor Fake's on his way back in. I was speaking to him.
I'm here. I'm here.
Excellent.
Welcome back, Councillor Fake. Right, we're moving on to then.
Sorry about that, Chairman. I don't know what happened. I was desperately pressing buttons all over the place, including space bars, but nothing happened.
It was worth the wait, Richard. We're moving on to item 9 now, the annual report of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Councillor David Levitt, Chair of Overview and Scrutiny Committee, to present.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Item 8, indemnity. Is that the one we dealt with at the beginning?
Yes, it
Yes,
was.
Chairman. Yeah, that is.
It
yeah,
was. Sorry, I was boring, Paul.
I'd never say that about you.
Yeah, okay then, Councillor Clark. You're happy it was done. Sorry, yes. Okay, can I call upon Councillor David Levitt to present the annual report or Overview and Scrutiny Committee?
Thank you, Chairman. I will try and keep this brief. You have the report in front of you, which you will all have read. Therefore, I'm quite happy to take any questions on the content of that. Just like to highlight a couple of things there. And first of all, is a very big thank you to my vice chairman, Kate Aspinall, and particularly to Hilary, Deneen, who with a very difficult year and lots of staff changes and that has coped admirably as our new scrutiny officer. And so thank you very much, Hilary, for all the hard work, and all the other people involved from the officer corps have been in getting the reports to us and getting us the information we need. Thank you very much for that indeed. And also thank you to all those others who attended. We've had quite a few cabinet members and other members just come and observe at the meetings, which we've not had previously, and thank you very much for all of you who've come along and taken part and shown an interest. The only thing I really want to pick out from the report is the this report a lot later than we would normally see it due to the COVID situation, so it's pretty much a pre-COVID report, this one. The main thing I really want to pick up on is the items contained on page 48 in paragraph 12 about the peer review that took place in January, and just to update a few of those points there. There were several initial findings that going through them, executive members should lead and be accountable for the decisions. We have introduced that, and executive members, as within this council meeting, now introduce the reports and take the lead in those, with officers to support where needed. Meetings should be focused with fewer agenda items. We're getting there, we've cut it down. We try to put, when we plan the meetings, we try and put a limit and a timing on each item now. So we try and keep to those times, and if we can't, we do take a comfort break. So very much more compact meetings than there used to be. And when we started the year, membership of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee is perceived to be too large. Well, as you know, we have a change in the Constitution, and that has reduced the numbers, which makes us more efficient. All scrutiny members to complete formal scrutiny training. That sort of got put on hold a bit due to the COVID situation, but that now is being scheduled and planned as soon as we are able to sort it. use the task and finish programme to support early involvement with policy making. Again, we've had issues with resources and people and time with the task and finish groups. In fact, the 2 we've got on the go at the moment have been delayed due to lack of resources and due to the current situation. When circumstances and time allows, we shall be doing that. The next one was review finish time and review finish time and location of the meeting. I think they also asked us to review the start time and looking at starting them at different times of the day and earlier. We did discuss this at some length and in other areas as well, and in meetings outside scrutiny. And it was felt that the best time for meetings where we can make sure we involve all members fairly and equally is in the evenings, and that's the best compromise, and we stay to that, but we do try and go for a set finish time. Clarify the governance arrangement between overview and scrutiny of panels. That has been discussed with us, and that is still in progress and onward going work, but we are getting there. And the last one is ensure forward work plan includes scrutiny of external partners and contractors. We have 2 of those already nominated for later in this year, and we're trying to get dates from them to when they can present to overview and scrutiny. So those recommendations of the peer review have largely been met, and the other ones that haven't been met yet are in progress, and we're not far off achieving those. That's that really on the main part of the report. The only comment I have to make is under section 4, overview and scrutiny can only call in those decisions which are made as the responsibility of the executive, including delegated executive decisions. At the moment, there's something that's come up to light in the last few days, and in the past, I've been asked to call in decisions made on delegated authority, and there doesn't seem to be a good process to be able to do that at the moment, and that's something I'd like to cover in the future, but it's not for this moment, but it's something I would like to review. So that said, that's my report for the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for the 2019-2020. And I'm open to questions, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Can I have a seconder, please? Is it Kate?
Peter, second that.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. And have we have any questions, debate? I've got no hands up for any members wish to talk at this point. And I still haven't. So I'm presuming that there is no debate on this one. And therefore, the recommendation is the annual report of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee 2019 to 2020 attached as Appendix A to be noted. Hilary, can I ask you to take us to the vote?
Yes, Chair, if you can vote in the normal manner, please, members. And that's carried, Chair. Thank you,
Hilary. Moving on to item 10, questions from members. In accordance with the Standing Order 4.8.11 brackets B, 3 questions submitted by members by the deadline date for questions set out in the Council's Constitution. So question A is, or the first question is direct debit take up for garden waste collection. Can I ask Councillor David Levitt to pose his question and Councillor Elizabeth Dennis Hardberg, Executive Member for the Waste and Cycle, to respond? What percentage of the direct debit has been taken up by the residents for garden waste collection this year, now operational? Councillor Elizabeth Dennis Hardberg.
I think you need to ask David Levitt to ask the question.
Sorry, yes. Sorry, David, I read the question out. Councillor Levitt, could you ask that question, please?
I've been practicing my ventriloquism act and it came out quite well. They all thought Terry said that, but my question is, what percentage of direct debit has been taken up by our residents for garden waste collection in this year, which is for the direct debit scheme that is now operational?
Thank you. Can I ask Elizabeth to respond?
I'll respond, Chair. Thank you very much. At the moment, because we're not sort of at the official first start date for the new subscription period, which is the 1st of October, the data is still quite fresh and is coming in and fluctuating quite rapidly. From the data that we have been able to access very quickly, we've got 700 people who have signed up via direct debit. The total number of people who have subscribed for the coming year at this point in time is 17,000. So obviously at the moment, the direct debit is quite a small percentage of those total sign-ups. We are obviously going to do a wider exercise digging into the data and understanding sort of what our residents want around direct debits, or just to sort of click and pay every year as their needs dictate. And now that we're in that final well, it's not even 2 weeks anymore, it's about a week before the new subscription year starts, we are starting to see an increase in the daily subscriber numbers, especially given that we've started running the social media campaigns as well. So if you check back in with me in a couple of weeks' time, once we're past the 1st of October, David, I'll be able to give you a bit more data around the percentages and the different customer types and which buckets they're all fitting in.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for that. And I do have a supplementary question. Not surprised to hear. Bearing in mind that that direct debit option is a very small percentage of the total number of subscribers. Do you believe that that could have been down to the problems with members of the public setting up direct debits with the BASA, which many of us have had reports of? And also including reports of having severe problems actually making payments and getting through, and the other problems such as many people have actually received 2 bin stickers this time, which is causing some concern. Do you believe that impacts on the way that people are subscribing?
At this point in time, I think it's too early for us to know for certain the reason why we've seen a relatively small number of our customer base opting to go with direct debits, because obviously I'm sure you're aware there's going to be a number of different reasons. For example, some people want to have a garden waste service but are on a 6 or 12-month fixed term tenancy. So clearly for them, they might not feel tying themselves into a direct debit for a service is appropriate. Now, you've referenced some problems with the website. There was a deliberate soft launch over the summer this year in order to try and avoid the really severe problems that we saw the first year that the previous administration had this system up and running. And the issues that we've seen have actually been some technical regulatory stuff to do with Barclays side of things, who are our payment service provider, and then just sort of 1 or 2 small issues with moving the website from the previous contractor who'd provided it to the new one and getting that all set up to offer the sort of new customer facing portal that we've now got. And as each issue did crop up, it was actually tackled and resolved by the website provider and our BASA and officers very quickly, usually within a 24-hour turnaround. So anecdotally, I don't think that the website is going to be the main barrier. I don't doubt that it could have been an issue for some people wanting to sign up to the direct debits, but at this point in time, from what I've seen, no, I don't agree that that was the main factor. But again, this is a piece of work that we can do post-project completion when we're doing those lessons learned exercises and evaluating things, so we can understand and obviously make things better for the next subscription year and then any other service that we might shift over to this kind of format. You've also referenced the duplicate stickers. That was an issue with Permiserve, which is the company that provides our wonderful little sort of sticker packs to go on the bins. They had a problem with their system for whatever reason, and it decided to run duplicates. That has been picked up, and they are doing a rectification piece of work. I don't know how many people it has affected, but I'm told that it is not a large and substantial number of people. So that is completely separate to the direct debit issue. And it's to do with a totally different company and their own sort of internal glitching. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, we'll move on to the second question then. Council Special Reserve Fund. Can I ask Councillor Morgan Derbyshire to pose the question to Councillor Ian Albert, Executive Member for Finance and IT?
Thank you, Chair.
Huge pressures are now being placed on the Council's Special Reserved Fund. Could the executive member advise to the current situation?
Councillor Albert.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor Derbyshire, for the question. I mean, as I said earlier, in relation to the medium-term financial strategy, I mean, I think the real issue here is the government's failure to deliver on its promise to adequately fund local authorities during the pandemic, rather less than the pressure on the special reserve. But turning, I think, to your question specifically, the balance on the special reserve at the start of the year was 1.175 million. The terms of the use of the reserve are now, and I quote here, maintained for any special financial pressures, such as pump priming for initiatives for shared services, changes in working practice, major contract renewals, unexpected contract variation, supporting the response to and reduce the impact of major incidents and other financial pressures. So for this year, the following amounts are forecast. Full Council have approved the use of the reserve to fund costs in relation to redundancy, which will provide ongoing revenue savings, and further details is in the Part 2 report from the July Council meeting. Following recommendations from the cross-party grants panel, just under £74,000 of grants have been allocated to community groups to help them to support our residents, and that will have increased after the meeting yesterday. And I think, you know, I'd certainly think that this is, been welcomed by organisations, and I think some of the presentations I know councillors have received from those groups, I think this support has been well received. And the current forecast is we'll spend about 150,000 on grants this year, although that will depend on the applications received. We're funding the commercial manager and commercial officer post for this year, totaling around 100,000. This decision was confirmed by Full Council as part of the 2021 budget setting process. We're funding for a small transformation team, as agreed at the Full Council meeting in July. And separately, there is also a council decision from 2018 that we would spend up to 130,000 on evaluation process proposals in relation to Churchgate prior to a final decision. 43,000 has been spent to date on that. So to conclude, the current forecast is that the balance on the reserve at the end of the year will in fact be around 700,000. So we will still have 2/3 of that special reserve still left. And the terms of that special reserve are quite broad, and in assessing our future sustainability in the medium-term financial strategy, as we've discussed earlier on in the agenda, the balance on this reserve will be considered alongside our general fund balance. Our general fund reserve, of course, has been hit by the impacts of COVID-19 and the shortfall in funding from government. I hope that's helpful. A helpful answer, Councillor Derbyshire. I'm more than happy to discuss that with you separately if you would like to.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Derbyshire, a supplementary question?
I have no supplementary.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. So we move on to question 3, which is seen at our packs, which is entitled Splash Parks. Can I ask Councillor Tony Hunter to pose the question to Councillor Steve Jarvis, Executive Member of Environment and Leisure?
I'll read it if you wish, Chairman.
Please do.
Bearing in mind the delayed opening of our splash parks this year, could the executive member advise as to whether any consideration was given to extending the closure date this season?
Thanks very much for the question. I mean, the simple answer to that is yes, but I think there's probably need to provide you with the background. As you're aware, the splash parks were unable to open in July, and when they did open, in order to open them in a satisfactory way, a COVID secure way, it was necessary to do quite a lot of things that we've not done in previous years, not least that whereas there are usually 2 members of staff supervising 4 sites, this year the Baldock site we were unable to open for technical reasons relating to the operation of the equipment, and we had to put 2 members of staff on each of the 3 sites that we did open. Those staff were all hired on fixed term contracts, and there was various equipment they needed hired on fixed term as well. When towards the end of the period, we considered whether or not there was scope for extending. the opening period. But it became apparent that many of the staff that had been hired were students who were either going to or returning to university very shortly after the end of their contracts, and they were unwilling to extend, so it would have meant recruiting and training new staff for a short extension. Normally, the utilisation of the splash parks drops off quite considerably once schools return. Inevitably, having made the decision, the day after they closed was one of the warmest days for some considerable time. I'm afraid that's one of the vagaries of the English summer. But having made the decision essentially that we were going to open them until the normal date, it really wasn't practical to extend it at short notice. And that's one of those things that I'm afraid regrettable, but there really wasn't a viable alternative.
Councillor Hunter, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. But firstly, my thanks to the executive member for the answer, which is now in the public domain, because obviously I had been asked by a number of residents and local councillors as to whether any thought had been given to extending the period. My supplementary question is obviously the weather conditions for the last few years in September and early October have been exceptionally good. And I wonder if the executive member could actually review the budget and the opening times for the forthcoming seasons. Hopefully things are back to normal in the forthcoming years.
I think there's a very interesting suggestion. I think you're absolutely right that the weather is frequently better in September than it is in August, or has been for the last few years. I'd be quite interested in investigating that. There is, of course, a question that usage drops off when children go back to school, but that's something that I'm certainly prepared to look at and see if it were feasible in future years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to notice of motions, item 11. 2 motions have been submitted. A is protecting the public's say in the planning process. Can I call upon Councillor Paul Clark to move the motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, planning to me is an important function of this council that allows us and residents to shape the community in which we live, as the current process currently allows. We have all, I hope, seen or heard of the consultation white paper of planning for the future. It allows local residents not to have a say on how the community is developed and shaped, which I believe is wrong. While at the same...
You froze there, Paul. We give Paul, you froze there. Could you repeat?
Oh, yeah, okay. It allows local residents to have a say in how the community is developed and shaped, while at the same time giving developers a level playing field via the NPPF. It has been an honour and a privilege to work with and observe councillors and officers from all across this chamber working to deliver the best they can for our area, which by removing local accountability, this consultation seeks to take away. The consultation also seeks to remove local 106 and SIL agreements that fund infrastructure, to replace it with a national levy, which we may or may not benefit us. The Royal Institute for British Architecture described the proposal as a shambles. That's a quote, so it's not me. And the Local Government Association, All Party Association, also oppose these proposals, which is currently led by the Conservatives. The council, I am asking the council to resolve to take part in the consultation in the planning proposals and to make representations against the proposal as outlined in the motion. Write to and lobby all 3 of our members of parliament, urging them to oppose the proposals and to circulate their replies to residents and members. and highlighting our concern over these proposals with the public and local residents. I
Thank you,
move
Councillor.
the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm very happy to second that. I totally agree with everything that Councillor Clark has said, but I'd like to reserve my right to speak on the motion should it be appropriate later on.
Of course. Thank you, Ian. We're moving to debate now. I've got Councillor David Levitt. Would they wish to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Paul, as well for that one. I think when we look at the resolutions, when we get to resolution number 2 on right to and lobby all 3 of our members of Parliament, urging them to oppose these proposals and circulate their replies, I think you may find you're pushing against an open door there, because all 3 of those MPs have already expressed views along these lines in the local press over the last couple of months, and pretty much along the lines of what this motion say. So thank you for the support there to our 3 local Conservative MPs. That said, I think this is quite a good motion. I do believe it is essential that we have a say in the local planning process. I think we've done it very well over the years. We continue to do so. We have a planning committee now that is fit for purpose, is independent, and does some very good work, and fully endorse the recommendations in this motion, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I've got no other hands raised at this point. Would anybody else like to speak? And there's no other hands come up. In that case, I'd like to take the vote, and just to check, Councillor Clark, is the council to resolve to take part in the constitution of planning proposals and to make representations against proposals as outlined in the motion, and 2, right to the lobby, lobby the 3 members of our Parliament, urging them to oppose proposals and to circulate their replies to members, and 3, highlight concerns over proposals with the public and local residents.
Just can I point out, Mr. Chairman, you said constitution, it's actually consultation in number 1.
Apologies. Thank you for correcting me there.
Sorry, bad habit of mine.
That's all right. No, it's important. So thank you very much. Hilary, can I ask you to take us to the vote, please?
Yeah, if you can just all vote in the normal way. I've just cleared all the votes, so those who had pre-voted will need to do so again. And that's carried, Chair.
Thank you, Hilary. Motion B, which is racial equality. Can I ask Councillor Sam Collins to move the motion?
Thank you, Chair. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Daniel Prude, these are names we hear in the news, and they're black people who were murdered by American police in the last sort of 12 months. And a lot of people probably looking at this motion and hearing this come up, and a lot of the Black Lives Matter movement will be thinking, well, what's this got to do with North Herts District Council? Well, on the face of it, there isn't much of a relationship at all. But the resulting rise of prominence in the back of these murders was the Black Lives Matter movement. And that sort of led to a lot of people. It really highlighted the issues globally with racism. It highlighted the issues for a lot of people locally with racism. And it's made a lot of people question their own attitudes and experiences with race. And in many ways, individuals, companies, establishments and organisations have found themselves lacking in that respect. And North Herts District Council is no different, unfortunately to say. And if you look around this sort of virtual chamber, if you like, and look at the faces represented here, do you think that's representative of the people of North Hertfordshire? Because it's absolutely not. We've already established that in the media with an article in the comment. The current membership of the council is not representative of the people in North Hertfordshire. So something does have to change. Something's clearly wrong. And there may be people sitting around and looking at themselves and thinking about what I'm saying right now and saying, well, look, there isn't any racism in North Herts District Council. There's not that much racism in North Hertfordshire at all. Well, there is. It's unfortunate to say so. There's racism in this council and there's racism in North Hertfordshire. Some of it's inadvertent. We've heard comments in the chamber that have caused controversy in the past. Not all of these points are deliberate, but a lot of that is through, I don't want to call it ignorance, but perhaps through lack of information, lack of understanding, lack of knowing where people really sit, really just getting what's going on. And I think it's clear that we as a council need to take further action. We've had a great statement from the leadership of the council in response to the sort of the uprising of the Black Lives Matter movement around the world. But I think we need to do a bit more than that. And that's really the point of this motion. Like, what can we do as a council? And there's actually an awful lot. And one of the first things we need to do is listen. We need to listen to community groups. I've been spending a lot of time with the new Hitchin Black Lives Matter group, and they're absolutely packed with suggestions, but they feel they haven't got a route to tell the councillors about it. They only want to talk to me, and I'm one councillor, but they should be able to talk to every single person in the council, every single representative, and they feel underrepresented. So we need to change that. So again, that's the point of the motion. So I think there's other factors here as well. We can use our ability as a council to lobby other organisations. We can lobby central government, the county council. I know there's some county councillors here. We can talk to them about changing the curriculum. You know, can we engage, stop the whitewashing of British history that's taught in schools, and really come to terms with slavery and colonialism and the empire and the negative connotations that has, so people actually have a better understanding of the history of this country, and of course, you know, the economic benefits the country benefited from really quite disgraceful activities in the past. So we need to take that into account and make people better informed about that. We also need to look at the current day as well. COVID-19, it has a disproportionate effect on non-white people. We need to work with, again, we need to lobby government. We need to continue to work with Herts County Council and the local health authorities to make sure that actually everybody in Hertfordshire, and particularly in North Hertfordshire, gets equality of care. So that's why I really put this together, and it's something that I know both myself and Councillor Oliver, who's seconding this motion, have talked about for a long time. And I think this just felt like the right time to put this together, and hopefully there's people right across North Hertfordshire tuned in and really supporting this. The rules say I have to read all the words of the motion. It's quite long, so do please bear with me. I'm just going to read this through. I'm going to rattle through it, but this is what the rules say, and there's a little bit I'm going to add on the end. Council notes with serious concern the death of George Floyd and other black people at the hands of police in America during 2020 and the systemic racism towards black people that continues to exist around the world. Council also notes the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on black, Asian and minority ethnic BAME people in the UK, and that decisive action needs to be taken to mitigate these risks on sections of our community. Council also welcomes the progress that has been made in North Hertfordshire over a number of years to build community cohesion and strengthen the voice of those who are marginalised, but recognises there's still much more to do. We can and must do. So this council resolves that to stand in solidarity with people of ethnic minority backgrounds across the district, Britain and around the world. Also, to lobby government for immediate action to address the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on ethnic minority people in the UK, here in Hertfordshire, and we will continue to work with our Director of Public Health on this issue. We will also lobby government and the County Council on racial inequality in education, including in recruiting more black and ethnic minority teachers, and to lobby national government to reform the curriculum to fully reflect British history, including the history of slavery, empire and colonialism. To ensure the Council's human resources and management practices fully meet the requirements for equalities, diversity and inclusion in the recruitment and career progression of all of our staff. Furthermore, that mandatory racial awareness and unconscious bias training is provided for all staff, council staff, it's written twice, especially management, customer-facing roles and elected members. And finally, to establish wider dialogue with community organisations to make clear recommendations to the council and other public bodies of further actions required to tackle discrimination and reduce inequalities across the towns or across the district. It says town at the end, but it should be district. To work with the neighbouring local authorities to deliver all of the above. So that's what's written in the motion. You've got a copy in front of you. Now, I am aware that Councillor Stanier has an amendment she wants to put in on the end of it. I've seen it, so I fully accept it as long as the seconder to the motion accepts it as well. I think we can proceed on that that amendment as changed. And I've had a message from Councillor Levitt that he would like to change the word mandatory, so when we're talking about mandatory training, to required. So if the amendment from Councillor Levitt is to change the word mandatory to the word required, I'll accept that as long as the seconder accepts it as well. And I think that's enough from me, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. That's very commendable. Councillor Helen Oliver, are you seconding this motion?
I'm happy to second the motion. I haven't actually formally heard Councillor Stanier's amendment, so I don't think technically I can accept it until I've heard it.
Okay.
But I'm happy. I'm happy to second the motion. Did you want me to speak to it now, Chair, or wait till we've heard Councillor Stanier's amendment?
It's up to you. You can speak to it now, or you can reserve your right to speak.
I'll speak to it now. I'm pleased to second this motion. It might be difficult, uncomfortable step to acknowledge that bias and prejudice are part of our decision-making processes as individuals, but there's no doubt that racial inequality is very much a reality in our society. It's important we accept the lived experiences of people from Black, Asian and minority ethnic backgrounds here in the UK. We need to do all we can as individuals, as public servants and as a council to effect meaningful change for the better in this area. The actions in this motion would be an essential step in the right direction.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stanier?
Thank you. So I fully support this motion. I think it's really good. I hope we don't have a lot of debate over it because I think we need to do all of these things. I do have a very small amendment. I have sent it to Councillor Collins and Councillor Oliver already. It's just regarding the last paragraph where it says to work with neighbouring local authorities to deliver all of the above. We've heard earlier in the meeting about how important our work is with the town and parish councils that look to the district council. And I think it would be important to incorporate that in this sentence. So I'm proposing that the sentence instead reads, to work with our parish and town councils and with neighbouring local authorities to deliver all of the above. That's the only change I'm suggesting. I hope that that can be found acceptable. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I ask, Councillor Stanier, can I ask you just to repeat that amendment for us?
So the amendment that I'm proposing is, I suggest amending the paragraph that reads to work with neighbouring local authorities to deliver all of the above, so that it instead reads to work with our parish and town councils and with neighbouring local authorities to deliver all of the above.
Thank you.
Do I need a seconder for that? As seconder of the motion, I'm happy to agree that amendment and Councillor Levitt's suggested change of word.
Chairman, can I just clarify that little word bit actually?
Sure.
If you just substitute the word, it's not very good English, it reads wrong if you just change the two words, because it would say, furthermore, that requirement, racial thing, it doesn't quite work. So furthermore, it is a requirement that. It's just correcting the wording a little bit.
Furthermore, where are we?
Yeah, Councillor Collins, I accept that change. It makes more sense.
Thank you.
Furthermore, sorry, David, what was it? Furthermore?
Yeah, that last sentence would read, instead of reading furthermore, that mandatory racial awareness, it would read, furthermore, it is a requirement that racial awareness and unconscious bias training is provided, etc., etc.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, as seconder, no, that's not quite the same thing. That would make it a requirement that it was provided, whereas what the motion requires is that people actually attend it. So they are two different things, actually, if you change it that way. If you say, furthermore, that racial awareness and unconscious bias training are provided as a requirement for council staff, or that attending racial awareness and unconscious bias training is a requirement for council staff, then that works. It has the same outcome. Otherwise, it's different.
Okay, I'll leave it then in that case as it is.
You're leaving it. Okay. Okay. So the amendment from Councillor Stanier is is the one we're going to vote on first. Is that right?
I'm happy to second it if you need a seconder.
No,
Chair,
Chair.
It's already seconded. It's already seconded by Helen.
Chair, point
Okay,
of
fine.
order, I don't think we need to vote on it if it's been accepted by the opposing.
Yeah, that's correct, Chair. The amendment that Councillor Stanier and Councillor Brown would like to put in has been accepted by Councillors Collins and Oliver. Therefore, there is no requirement to vote on that.
On that separately. Okay, in that case.
And a point of order just on that, you
Yes,
also, the proposer also changed the word equalities across the town to equalities across the district.
Chair, that's correct. It is incorrectly written on the document, and I should have changed it. That's my fault. My apologies to the council. It should be across the district, not across the town.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Strong, Councillor Collins. Helen, have you got that?
Yes, I'm happy to have town changed to district. It's
All right.
pertinent.
And Hilary, have you got that written down?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, that we will go into the vote for the whole motion. Oh, sorry, I've got some hands up. Sorry, apologies. Before we're going to debate first, Councillor Daniel Allen.
Thank you very much, Chair. I totally support this. I would just like it to be a recorded vote. Having had previous issues in this council with insensitive comments, I want to make sure that the recorded vote is done. Thank you.
Duly noted, Councillor Allen. This will be a recorded vote. Councillor Martin Steers-Hanscom.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I certainly support this motion as it's been amended. There's a great deal of really good stuff here that we do need to act on. What I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about it is in relation to the Council's human resources and management practices. We already do go beyond what is required by equalities, diversity and inclusion legislation, and this includes the removal of all indicative data from application forms when shortlisting, and use of software to identify wording in job adverts likely to discourage certain groups of people from applying. We already have a section on unconscious bias in our recruitment training, and unconscious bias training has been carried out with senior managers. There is also an e-learning package on this, which can be made available to councillors as well as to staff. And in addition, induction training for staff includes equality and diversity training. Now, as and Councillor Collins mentioned this, as reported to an earlier meeting, we intend to build on that to go further through, in one way through the Shaping Our Future programme that is being driven through by a representative board of members and officers at different levels of seniority in the organisation. Our next agenda includes a more detailed look at this issue, and additional members have been invited so that we base our recommendations and conclusions on the lived experience of our BAME and particularly black members of staff. And as has already been said, it is actually that lived experience, not just in America, but also as many of us have seen in talking to Black Lives Matter members, actually in this country as well. Very much supports the motion, very happy to discuss what further training is appropriate to take forward in line with what's proposed in the motion, in particularly involving the Equality, Diversion and Inclusion Group, on which BAME staff members are well represented. We're very conscious there is always more to do, and so I very much welcome this motion.
Thank you, Martin. Councillor David Levitt.
Thank you, Chairman. The Conservative Group support this motion, which I quote, builds on the progress that has been made in North Hertfordshire over a number of years. Of course, that was under the previous Conservative administration. We look forward to seeing the administration's action plan and progress reports on the resolutions before us, and we would be pleased to work with the administration on the formulation of that action plan to ensure a sound and robust policy that delivers the real results of this important issue. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, David. Councillor Aspinall.
Thank you very much, Chair. I also want to just speak in support of this motion, but further I'd like to echo Councillor Steers-Hanscom's words around the North Arts District Council's human resources practices and the focus that has been on removing inequalities certainly since I've been here the last 2 years. I've remained close to this, and I've always been incredibly impressed with the work that is done there. There is always more to do, but the approach that's been taken there, I just want it noted that I think that has been exceptional and way above and beyond what has been asked for of them, even prior to some of the tragic things that we've seen and the way that this movement has come to the forefront of our minds in 2020. So I want to just note that and make sure that that's been said. I also think that it's worthwhile talking about, this motion asks us to lobby County Council on racial inequality, and I absolutely think that that's the right thing to do. I think it is also worth noting, however, that I believe that the County Council have done an awful lot of work on this. I have seen firsthand the work that has been done with them and their partners, and so I think lobbying will be pushing a very open door, which is something that this council should be proud to be able to do. So yes, I fully support this, and I believe that anyone that we are asking to act on this within those two areas will certainly be very keen to hear our views.
Thank you, Kate. Councillor Nikwala.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to speak as well in support of this motion. Fully support it. One of the things I wanted to raise was the need for community involvement. And if we're looking at why things haven't changed as much as they should have done, the important question to ask is, why hasn't it? And if it's because people find it difficult to have their voice heard, we need to make sure that their voices have a forum in which they can be heard, and to make sure that those people are involved and we go to them to make sure they know how to get involved. But I fully support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Therefore, it's a very long motion, so I'm not proposing that we read out the motion again, but I'd like to take it to the vote. But if anybody really wants the motion to be read again, then please let me know. Okay, then Hilary, can you take us to the vote, please?
Yes, Chair. So it's a recorded vote has been asked for, so we're voting on the motion in front of you with the amendments as mentioned, which I'm sure you all understand. So I'm going to call out your surnames, and if you can answer for, against or abstain, please. Albert.
For.
Alan.
For.
Thank you. Aspinwall.
For.
Councillor Billing, I believe you dropped out and therefore are unable to vote on this occasion. So,
unfortunately, I would have supported it though.
Thank you. Brown.
For.
Bryant.
For.
Clark.
For.
Collins.
For.
Davidson.
For.
Davies.
For.
Deacon Davis. Oh, sorry. Dennis Harburg.
For.
Derbyshire.
For.
Green. Councillor Green. For. Thank you. Grindle. Councillor Grindle. If someone would just double check that he's still in while I carry on, and I'll come back to him. Harwood.
For.
Hone.
For.
Hoskins.
For.
Hewson.
For.
Hunter.
For.
Jarvis.
For.
Levitt.
For.
Mantle,
4,
McNally,
4,
Moody,
4,
Morris. Oh, sorry, I am being silly today. Sorry. Muir,
4,
Nash,
4,
Nguala,
4,
North,
4,
Oliver,
4,
Prendergast,
4,
Rice,
4,
Wajira Chaka,
4,
Stanley. Sorry, Stanley. I do apologise.
4,
Sorry about that. Steers Hanscom,
4,
Strong. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
4,
Thank you. Fake,
4,
Tyler,
4,
Tyson,
4,
Weeks.
4,
Councillor Grindle, I understand you're back now, but unfortunately, because I believe you dropped out, so therefore I'm able to vote. So all present, bar those 2 councillors that dropped out during the vote, during the item, have voted for, and the vote is carried.
Thank you, Hilary. We're now going to section 12, exclusion of the press and public. I'd like to move that under section 100A of the Government Act 1972, the press and the public be excluded from the meeting on the grounds that the following report will involve the likely disclosure exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 and of part 1 of schedule 12A of the said act as amended. Could I have a seconder, please?
I second that.
Thank you, Councillor Bryant. We're voting. Do we vote to go to section 2? Do we?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Hilary, can I ask you to take a vote, please? Hilary?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute for a moment. Yes, if everyone can vote in their normal manner, please.
Great, thank you.
That is carried, Chair.
Thank you very much. We will now be sent to an invitation. You will now be sent an invitation to go into a breakout room to discuss part 2 items. Please accept this invitation. We will return to part 1 meeting to make public decisions. Hilary, if you can take us.
IT Vic.
Vic, sorry, could you take us to breakout room?
Send us the breakout room invitations, please. Just 1 second.
I've got one down here.
This helpless logger.
Hello. It's just me. Hi, Vic. No.
Councillor Brennan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, sorry, for some reason I can't get you back into the part two.
Right.
Let me just try one more time.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, Claire, we can't get you back in there.
Okay.
If you want to turn your screen off for a minute, Claire, because we're in part two.
Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute for a moment. Yes, if everyone could open their door. That is carried, Chair. So just a quick list of accomplishments. I'm delighted to invite. I'm delighted.
Hilary, if I can ask you to do a roll call.
Certainly, Chair. Again, I'm just going to call your surnames. Sorry, I just need to find the right bit of paper.
Sure.
So it's Albert.
Yep.
Alan.
Yes.
Aspinwall.
Yes.
Billing.
I'm here now.
Good. Brown.
Here.
Bryant.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Collins.
Hello.
Davidson.
Present.
Davis.
Here.
Dennis Harburg.
Here.
Derbyshire.
And
Green.
Here.
Grindle.
yep.
Harwood.
Here.
Hone.
Present.
Hoskins.
Here.
Newson.
Yeah.
Hunter.
Present.
Jarvis.
Yes, I'm here.
Levitt.
Here.
Mantle.
Yeah.
Manali.
Yes, I'm here.
Moody.
Here.
Muir.
Present.
Thank you. Nash.
Yeah.
Anguala.
Here.
North.
Here.
Oliver.
Here.
Prendergast.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Rogera Chaka.
Present.
Stania.
Here.
Stiz Hanscom.
Here.
Strong.
Present.
Fake.
Yeah.
Tyler.
Present.
Tyson.
I'm here.
Weeks. Councillor Weeks. Have we lost him?
Sorry, here.
Okay, thank you. Ian Fullstone.
Here.
Jeanette Thompson.
Here.
Ian Cooper.
Here.
Vaughan Watson.
Here.
Melanie Stimpson.
Present.
Nuanetta Katavu.
Here.
William Edwards.
Present.
That's it, Chair.
Thank you, Hilary. Just to say to the public that we're back with you now after our part 2 session. We're moving on to item 5B, item reference from Cabinet 21st of July 2020, COVID-19 financial impacts. Councillor Ian Albert to present and propose. Councillor Albert.
Yeah, I will be brief. Chair. We've done quite a lot of finance issues tonight. So there's 3 recommendations on page 9 of the agenda. The first one, which really notes the impact, notes the paper that's been in front of you and sets out that we don't need an emergency budget. We have sufficient reserves for the reasons I've set out on at least a couple of occasions earlier this evening. Clearly, if that situation changed, we would come back to full council. The second recommendation is in relation to a change to the capital programme for the resurfacing of the top deck. There is relates to water ingress. Currently, there is ingress there which is permeated through the surfacing and affecting some parking bays. To prevent cars being damaged, effective bays have been sectioned off, but it's expected that this could get worse over time and affect more parking spaces. It felt right that we should get this work done as soon as possible with other work that's scheduled in the lairage. And the final thing there was about potentially providing a loan to the building control company. Now, the investment strategy details how the council invests its cash, which includes loan for service purposes. Within the agreement for setting up the building control company, there was a provision for each of the partner authorities to provide up to 2 loans to the company. The first of these loans was for 107,000 and was provided when the company was set up. The second loan we're proposing is for 65,000. When the investment strategy was written in February, it wasn't expected that building control company would need a further loan, but due to the impact of COVID, it is possible that loan will be needed. So council asked to change to to approve the change to the investment strategy to include this provision. The loan will only be provided if the company can demonstrate that it is sustainable in the medium term. So on that basis, I would ask you to approve those 3 recommendations in front of you this evening, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Albert. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Steers-Hanscom. We're moving to debate. Is anybody like to ask any questions? I have no hands up. Therefore, Hilary, can you take us through the vote, please? For the
I'd like to vote in your normal manner, please. Thank you.
And we're taking items 1, 2, and 3 all together.
That's carried, Chair.
Thank you, Hilary. Moving on to item 5C, item referred from Cabinet 21st of July 2020, COVID-19, leisure contracts recovery. Councillor Steve Jarvis to present and refer 5C.
Okay. My understanding, which I'd like the officers to confirm, is that we need to replace the recommendation on the papers with the same recommendation that we agreed in the Part 2 report. Am I correct in understanding that?
That's my understanding as well, Chair.
In that case, that's what we do. Yes.
Okay. In which case, do you want me to read that out, Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the recommendation then is to provide financial support to Stevenage Leisure Limited on an open book basis from the 20th of March 2020 up to at least the 31st of March 2021. The support provided would only cover losses relating to the council's contracts and will not cover central overheads. Stevenage Leisure Limited will be required to take all reasonable actions to minimise the value of any losses. The actual value of the support required will depend on Stevenage Leisure's income recovery, but will be capped at a maximum of £1.8 million. As discussed in the Part 2 item, this is action that we need to take to ensure that our leisure facilities can continue to operate until the end of the financial year. And clearly what happens after that is something that we will have to determine during the council's budget process, depending on where we got to in the pandemic and the extent to which the future use of leisure facilities is recovering or not at the time. So this is just the proposal to maintain our leisure facilities in operation for the remainder of this financial year.
Thank you, Councillor Jarvis. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you,
Chairman,
Martin.
point of inquiry, please.
Yes, Councillor Fake.
What is the point of a Part 2 when Councillor Jarvis promptly reveals to the full public the extent of the commitment that this authority discussed in Part 2? I fail to understand.
Can I ask you, Jeanette, to respond?
The purpose, Chair, is that you've had that debate in closed session first of all, and obviously, as I'm sure Mr. Cooper will confirm, at some stage you're going to have to account for this up to 1.8 million potentially anyway. So this is a matter of transparency in terms of the decision that you're making tonight.
Is that okay, Councillor Fake?
Thank you. I failed to understand. I asked a question. I've got an answer. Thank you.
Perhaps, Chair, I can help. We needed the discussion in Part 2 because there are other issues which are a matter of commercial confidentiality that we could discuss and may have discussed in Part 2. What we are dealing with in Part 1 is now the public amount to which we are potentially supporting Stevenage Leisure, which clearly we have to make in public. But there are other questions that in the Part 2 discussion that went into more commercial detail, and obviously we had to deal with that in Part 2.
Yeah, understood, Chairman. I'm grateful for the clarification. I was mystified. I am no longer mystified. Thank you.
That's good to hear. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you. You'll be relieved to hear I'm not going to repeat what I said in Part 2, but I'm afraid, colleagues, I will apologise. I am going to ask for a recorded vote on this one, really to reflect my comments about my uncertainty of using public funds for this particular venture.
Recorded vote noted and will be executed. Thank you, Councillor Harwood. I have no other hands raised, so I'm presuming we shall now go to the vote. Hilary, can you take us to the vote, please?
Yes, I will again call out your names, and if you can vote by stating whether you are for, against or abstain regarding the motion that Councillor Jarvis read out. I'm only going to call your surnames. So Albert.
For.
Alan.
For.
Aspinwall.
For.
Billing, Claire, I'm not, Councillor Billing, I'm not sure if you were there for the whole.
I wasn't there. Well, I was there for this bit, but I wasn't there for any of the other bits.
You're voting on this bit now. It's up to you whether you.
I'm for.
Brown.
For.
Bryant.
For.
Clark.
For.
Collins.
I see no other option. For.
Davidson.
For.
Davies.
Against.
Dennis Harburg.
For.
Derbyshire.
Against.
Green. Councillor Green.
Councillor Green.
Against. I'm having trouble muting.
Thank you. Councillor Grindle.
Very happy to support the retention of North Herts leisure facilities. For.
Harwood.
Against.
Hone.
Against.
Hoskins.
For.
Hewson.
For.
Hunter.
Against.
Jarvis.
For.
Levitt.
Against.
Mantle.
For.
McNally.
A declared interest, not voting.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Moody.
Against.
Muir. Councillor Muir. Sorry, I didn't hear the response. Councillor Muir.
Councillor Muir.
If I could lip read, he definitely is saying against, but he's not.
I need to hear him say it for himself, I'm afraid. Councillor Muir, if you can unmute yourself and tell me your.
Muted.
Press the space bar.
Yeah, just push the space bar and tell me whether you're for or against or abstain.
He hasn't got a space bar on his phone.
Oh, right, he's on his phone,
yeah.
is he? Okay. Right, I'll come back to
Harry,
him.
can you just unmute him? Can you unmute him?
IT can.
IT.
IT can.
Trying to find it. I'm just trying to find it.
Sorry, Chair, I'm trying to unmute him, but he's not accepting.
He's unmuted now. Yeah, he must have succeeded.
Councillor Muir.
I'm against.
Thank you very much. Right, Councillor Nash.
No, I can't see another option, so I'm going to have to vote for.
Nguala.
For.
North.
Abstain.
Oliver.
For.
Prendergast.
For.
Rice.
Against.
Rogera Chaka.
For.
Dania.
For.
There's Hanscom.
For.
Claire Strong, you declared an interest.
And not voting.
That's right. Fake.
Against.
Thank you. Tyler.
For.
Tyson.
For.
Weeks.
Against.
Okay, give me 2 seconds just to count.
Point of order, we have a councillor without video on. I thought we had to stay on video. We've now come on video.
Sorry, Councillor Aspinall, what was that?
Oh, it's just point of order. We had a councillor throughout that whole debate that was not on video, and I just thought we had to stay on video.
Yes, that was the instructions. Which councillor wasn't on video?
Councillor Green.
Advice, officers? Councillor Green wasn't.
Councillors should remain visible where practical throughout the whole of the debate, and obviously the vote, ideally, though it's more to do with the decision making and obviously the debate.
Can I go now?
So Councillor Green's vote counts, yes?
Well, Chair, it's up to you. I think it's a fairly minor matter at this particular stage in the evening, but yes, essentially you can disregard her vote if you think it's pertinent.
Can I say that when I had the trouble with the mute, it was going from one to the other, so I probably went against my video at that time.
Okay, if it's my decision, then Councillor Green's vote will count.
Okay. So, including Councillor Green's vote, the vote's carried anyway, 24-12, and 1 abstention. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. That's okay. That's fantastic. Right, we are at the end of it. So thank you very much for your time this evening. Thanks to all the members and the officers for their time and all the debate. And thank you very much indeed. I'm going to close the meeting at 23:07 and